for this fight for over 2 years. I've been waiting for this fight forever. And I've been fighting guy even with one knee, with injury. And now, why do I be scared of them? Why I feel even more confident? No, I'm not scared. The only thing that I'm scared of is to be trapped. It's not to lose my freedom.
For the victory lap though. Whoa, whoa. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I stress overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please pardon my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Ain't no challenge for champions and chain no fear. Yup, the champ is here, switch gears. We keeping haters in the rear.
2, 1. All right, what's going on, y'all? It's Common Sense. We are back again for another reaction video. We can go ahead and start off introductions as we do every time. Go ahead on, Cole. Start it on out.
Y'all, it's the C Julius workout. Check me out on Instagram. Check me out on YouTube. Don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, and share the video.
Yep. You already know it's your boy Enemy Swag Fitness, Bigger Guy Fashion, Shoppy 90, Lifters on YouTube, Common Sense Podcast. So today is actually we're going to be talking about the super controversial Francis Ngannou incident. So anybody who doesn't know who Francis Ngannou is, like, what are you living under a rock? He was the UFC Heavyweight Champion of the world, right? So Francis Ngannou, he's just a big, just Mendeacon ass motherfucker, right? I forget his stat, but he's tall. Like he's really tall. Like I don't want to say he's like 7 foot, but he's like 6 foot. Like he's like 6'5" or 6'6". He's very tall, right, and big, right, strong, muscular. He's like an overall good competitor. So I ain't gonna front. A nigga is mad. Me, I'm mad, right? Not mad at him specifically, right? I get why he did what he did. But, I'm a fight fan, so I really wanted to see Jon Jones, you know what I mean? The gifted prophetic kid, you know what I mean? Fight Francis Ngannou, because I was super excited to see that fight because, Jon Jones bulked all the way up to 250 just so he can fight him, and, he had, Francis Ngannou had contract negotiations and, yeah. So this is what we're going to do. I got some facts that I'm going to go ahead on and share for you guys to see. We can go through that. And ironically, Francis Ngannou, as of I think yesterday, just released an official statement, right, on why he actually left the UFC. So we're gonna do that too. So
yeah, that'll be good to see because I remember I did some research because just to see why he was making that decision. But it'd be good to see what his official statement was.
Of course, yeah. And all right, here we go. So this is straight from ESPN. Francis Ngannou on UFC exit. In that contract, I'm not free. So Francis Ngannou said that he asked for a lot of things from the UFC during a long contract negotiation period, but the former UFC heavyweight champion said that ultimately decided the UFC was offering didn't afford him enough freedom. In an interview on the MMA Hour, Ngannous said he requested many things from the UFC, including a 3-fight deal, the promotion waiving extension clauses, and even health insurance for all fighters. Most requests, he said, were not met. And now Ngannou is a free agent. And that contract, I'm not free. And that contract, I'm not an independent contractor. And that contract, I have no rights, I have no power. I hand all the power to you guys. And I've seen it in the past how you can utilize that power. UFC president Dana White said last Saturday that the promotion released Ngannou, including waiving on exclusive negotiating window and 1-year matching rights clause, and stripped him of the heavyweight title. Ngannou disputes that characterization, saying that his contract with UFC expired in early to mid-December, and he was already a free agent. So now, former UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones will face Cyril Gane for the now vacant heavyweight title at UFC 285 on March 4th in Vegas. Yeah. So this is, as you can see, it's a lot. So if you're not like an avid fight fan, then maybe it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you. And I don't really have anything personal against Dana White, right? But I will say this much: Dana White has consistently had issues with fighters, right? Now, Dana White is definitely like a reward by kind of a reward. So like Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, all the greats, like all the greats, right? They in general they don't really say a whole lot about him and his organization, but like middle tier fighters have kind of expressed concerns about the way that the UFC kind of like does things, and in all honesty, I can understand why. Um, and my big thing is that people can only keep on saying, like, if this was he was the first one saying, the second one saying this, the third one saying this, then I'm like, okay, cool. But this has been an ongoing thing when it comes to Dana White specifically. And he's a businessman at the end of the day, so I understand that. But at the same time, you also got to kind of be like, all right, maybe we should treat our fighters a little bit better. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what he does kind of want, like a little bit of freedom. Now, UFC is the top mixed martial arts fighting organization in the entire world. It's not even close. So, Dana White is pretty much built. I forget how much the UFC is worth now, right? And the reason I'm doing this is because I really want you guys to understand, like, how big of a fucking deal this is, right? So, let's see. Pull it up. Just so I want to make sure. There we go. According to a report by Fanshow, the world's biggest mixed martial arts promotion, the UFC is now worth around $9 to $10 billion. Yeah. And then peep this out. Dana White is estimated at about $500 million, right? So he's done a great job, like with the UFC, like in general, like in just building it up, like over the last decade. So it's really kind of crazy, right? Because Dana White, he doesn't technically own UFC. He's the president and a big shareholder, but he's not actually the owner of it, though, right? I forget. I think it's some company like called Endeavor or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't really know, right? But yeah, I don't really think that. I think that the problem is that, like, if these guys are not smart with their money, for example, right? Like the UFC, there's no compensation plan for any of their injuries, and people don't understand that. So they pay out of pockets to treat their injuries and stuff like that. So it really is kind of like, all right, well, they have no benefits like whatsoever. And they do make good money, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, though, they don't make like enough money. And again, I'm gonna fact check this real quick too, right? And I believe what was the average UFC salary, right? So they the average UFC fighter, like a middle tier ranges from on the low 80 grand to all the way up to the highest of 250,000, right?
Yeah. Especially like what a WNBA player makes.
You know what I'm saying? Which is not bad. No, they definitely make more than WNBA, but that's not me trying to be mean or anything like that.
That's like middle tier for WNBA is around that range. Now it's closer to the 80 to 100. The 250 is like more closer to like the top player in the WNBA. My point is they make similar money. One of the big differences, your point is, their health care is all run through the team because the team operates that.
No, so I mean, like,
that's a huge
so
what huge cost, especially in a combat sport where you're going to get injured.
Yeah, well, no, they make about anywhere from 80 to 250 per fight.
Oh yeah, I forget. They got the contracts is
paid different.
Never mind. Yeah, so they're definitely getting paid more than okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, they definitely are making more than them, right? But again, that's the problem, right? Now, and I've had this conversation before with a lot of fight fans, right? Hold on, and I'm gonna fact check again, right? Just to like make sure, right? Okay. So professional boxers, right? For example, right? So let's compare we're gonna compare Conor McGregor, for example, right? And it is kind of hard to because they cannot fight as much, like physically. They can't fight as much. It's UFC fighters. You know what I mean? Their shelf life is very very short in comparison with fighters. And if you're smart as a boxer, like Floyd Mayweather, for example, and you switch up your fighting style, then you can kind of make it last a little bit, right? So now Conor McGregor, who is the richest MMA fighter in the world, right, has a net worth of about 200 million, right? So Conor came into the league. What year was it? That's what I thought. 2013. I would say 2012, 2013, right? So from 2013, right, and I think he officially, so he's still active from time to time, but we'll say 2013 to 2020, 2020, we'll say to 2020, right? So that's 7 years, right? Now, how much money Conor made just off his fights alone, though, right? That's through promotions, that's through wrestling, that's through boxing, stuff like that. It's completely different, right? So boom. All right. $22 million. Right? So he had earned like up to $22 million in the UFC, and then he banked an additional 33 million for the Dustin Poirier fight, right? So the bulk of his money came after, right?
Yeah, but honestly, that's most athletes is coming from stuff that like is building off of your brand. So I'm not surprised by that.
Still, though, right? It's a dramatic difference. Now, that's for 7 years, right? And people don't understand, like that's a long fucking time to be a fighter, like a UFC fighter. Like you got 10 years max usually.
Yeah,
like,
he's fortunate to have been doing UFC for that long.
Exactly, and to be doing it because like they may be training and fighting for a really long time because most of them start very young. They're like 18, 19, 20, right? So by the time they're 34, 35, it's like, yeah, like they're getting worn down. It's just like a fact. Like, it just is what it is. And it's a young man's game. Now, the problem with this situation, once again, is the fact that for them, they don't get any like benefits.
So,
right?
like, do they have a union?
No, they don't.
Well, because then they should. I mean, again, I know people hate union fees, but they need to consider getting a union because I'm guessing like their profit sharing. Like I know I read on one of those articles, like the guy was considering doing boxing. And if you look at the profit sharing between boxing and like pay-per-view, like the pay-per-view between what the athlete gets and what the company gets, the athlete gets way more money compared to what the UFC fighter gets.
Yep.
Like their contract negotiations is basically fucking them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna disagree with
that. I just think that's like, I mean, to me, they're in a sport where the athlete has the power. Because to me, they're similar to like basketball and not like football, where football is all about the NFL. We love certain players, but you love your team, right? True. Where in basketball, I don't know about you, I follow players, not teams. So the player, they generate a lot of the revenue. Whereas to me in UFC, there is no team, it's the athlete. I'm going to follow that athlete first. So they should be making a shit. If they can get the contract negotiations right and really build their brands, I'm sure there's things, prohibiting them doing certain things, but they can make a lot of money because it's all about them. Like the UFC brand is kind of like whatever, but you love Conor McGregor. You know what I'm saying? You love the person you're talking about.
I don't even know. Like I said, it's just crazy too because when you like compare it though, it's just like so dramatic of a difference. You know what I mean? Like prime example, like Ryan Garcia. You know what I mean? He's pretty boy. Everybody knows who he is, right? I forget what he's ranked because I'm not like I watch boxing, but I'm not like like a super like diehard fan either though, right? But he's like 24. He's worth like $10 million, right? Now, I just like let me see title.
Yeah, I don't really watch any literally combat sports at all. I think the business model is interesting, but I'll watch it if I'm in a bar, but I don't like actively like watch it at home.
I mean, yeah, well, no, yeah, you're all good. It's no big deal, right? Yeah. Let me see. Matter of fact, because I'm pretty sure. Because he's not the champ right now. Okay, so he did hold the title in 2021, right? So he's 24. That's what I thought. So he's for the interim lightweight title, and in fuck yeah, but he's not champ right now. He's 20. He's 24, right? And he has his total fights. He has 23 fights, right? He has 23 fights. Their wins by KO, right? And he's still kind of rising up the ranks and everything like that, right? He's doing a good job though. But again, comparatively to Francis Ngannou, who even him, he's worth more than Francis Ngannou right now as the heavyweight, as the heavyweight champion UFC. Like it's like I think now of the deals and stuff like that, I think Francis Ngannou, if I remember correctly, is like $7 million, and he's worth, and then Ryan Garcia's worth like $10 million. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you look at, and I'm not trying to be funny, like Francis Ngannou is older too. On top of that,
so he's more towards the end of his career, so you got to make decisions.
I mean, like I said, you got. Let me see.
Well, I know he said he wants to do boxing, so.
Yep. See what I'm saying? So he's 36 years old, just like I thought, right? You know what I mean? So it's like he doesn't have that much longer too, as opposed to when you look at, Ryan Garcia, right? He's only 24, so if he keeps doing what he's doing, right, he can keep boxing for bare minimum another 10 years, right? Like bare minimum. So like his earning capacity will far as succeed. You know what I mean? Like just off of like boxing alone. Comparatively, right? So the type of money that they make like in boxing as compared to like UFC, it's not even close. And so that's kind of like my point for this type of a situation is like why Francis Ngannou knows that. Mind you, he the champ. So like if he's asking for this shit, can you imagine just like some regular fighter who's trying to make it up the ranks and it's been boxing for 5 or 6 years? You know what I mean? Like, most of these motherfuckers probably got another job just because they need some benefits. Like they can't keep afford to like shelling out like thousands and thousands of dollars for doctors. And even then, think about what type of healthcare insurance provider would even insure them.
Yeah, they're not getting insurance.
Like I wouldn't. Like you're a liability. You're a huge liability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is true.
So it's like, yeah, I do believe that like the UFC could at least do that, right? Could at least offer them some type of like coverage, insurance plan, something.
I mean, I don't know. They're in a situation where until they get a union or get better in the contract negotiations, but not at a person, not just at a athlete to UFC relationship, it needs to be them collective. So collective bargaining, they need to get some type of collective bargaining because right now it's just you got this person saying this person, this one person, but they're not working together as a unit because there's the money's definitely there to get benefits. There's no reason they shouldn't have them.
Exactly.
They gotta work. I mean, it's like in the UFC is still in its infancy stage. So as more athletes leave. Because I'm sure he'll probably start a trend.
No, he is going to.
It'll cause them to have to do this naturally.
Yeah,
but they really need to work together to get what they're asking for. Because they're definitely, I mean, it's extremely popular.
Yeah,
extremely popular. I know I don't watch UFC, but I know most people I know like watch it. Like
it's a grown sport. Yeah, it's not even close. But so now this is what we're going to do. We are going to see what he has to say. Because I genuinely haven't seen this either. Like this like brand spanking new. And this is directly from him, his channel, his brand, everything too. So we're going to try to cut it up a little bit so that way we don't get flagged or nothing like that. I'm like, damn, motherfucker, we just want to just hear what this motherfucker got to say.
Surgery.
There we go.
I want to thank you for being so patient with me during this time. From my last fight, my surgery, and my negotiation behind the scene with the UFC. I want to thank the UFC fan who have supported me during this time, and thanks to the UFC for the past 7 years. I want to share my excitement for the heavyweight fight between Jon and Ciryl Gane. It's going to be a very exciting fight. I'm going to be watching that fight.
I will say this much though. I think that for that fight too, for Jon Jones, I love Jon Jones. I think that fight may actually, I think it'd be a good fight though, because Francis Ngannou is like a powerhouse, right? So he's good at striking, good at punching, but he's also really, really, really good at grappling too. And I think Jon Jones, him bulking up and training, right? He's training specifically for like Francis Ngannou, right? And I think this new fight, honestly, and I can never pronounce his name and I suck at it, and I'm not gonna keep fucking it up. But I know who he is, right? I'm not a huge fan of his, but I know very well who he is, right? So he's a lot more like, I want to say like agile and flexible too. So I think it might pose an even harder fight for him because of the fact that all of his training has been geared towards fighting Francis Ngannou. It's gonna be like a different style, but that's just me.
But we all know the term undisputed mean nothing here. Yes, it really mean nothing. But I would still be excited watching that fight.
You're going to fight arguably the greatest fighter of all time. You'd be the highest paid heavyweight ever in UFC history. Or you think there's more money out there to fight somebody who isn't the greatest of all time, somebody who is a lesser opponent. I mean, you'll have to ask Francis that question, but in my opinion, that's what it is.
They have also said that I'm scared of fighting.
And that's another thing too. He always UFC always does that shit. Whenever somebody leaves a contract negotiation or they don't agree and they get out of their contract and they leave or something like that, especially when it's like right before like a big fight, especially like title fights, they always gonna be like, oh, like they're scared. I'm like, so you think it's like if they pulled out of the fight strictly because of the fact that they didn't want to fight them, that's one thing. But they were letting you know they were having contract issues specifically in like negotiations. Like that's some bitch ass shit. Like I don't like that shit. And I'm not saying that. And while Dana White is the president too, but we also got to remember that like he doesn't own the UFC anymore. Right, he owned by a company, right, and a bunch of boardroom executives and shit like that too. So I'm not saying that Dana White's doing it, I don't know that, but like he's the UFC like president, so of course he's gonna be the fall guy. But yeah, that's some bitch ass shit though,
Jon Jones or somebody else, which I don't know where they came from with that one. That sounds very ridiculous, in my opinion, with all due respect, because I've been calling for this fight for over 2 years. I've been waiting for this fight forever. And I've been fighting guys even with one knee, with injury. And now, why do I be scared of them? Why I feel even more confident? No, I'm not scared. The only thing that I'm scared of is to be trapped. It's not to lose my freedom, which I value very much. You guys know how the UFC contract can be restrictive, and as an independent contractor, you don't really have a say in that contract. You don't even have a right. So I can't do that.
You don't want to be here. You don't have to be here.
Anyone who doesn't have to be here doesn't have to be here. You know that's not true, right? You know how restrictive the UFC contract can be for a contract that's supposedly for independent contractor. So there's not really a lot of things that you want or you can do when you.
And I'm pretty sure, and I'm gonna fact check this though, so anybody watching this video too, don't get on me. But I'm pretty sure that like he's not wrong when he's talking about like the whole restrictive part, because like even like Jon Jones, for example, Jon Jones can't just like go when like if he wanted to fight Francis Ngannou, right? in any type of like a public forum outside of like a bar fight. Like, you know what I mean? If people are going to be getting paid to watch them fight legally, I'm pretty sure he can't even do that. So I think that's kind of part of like what he's talking about too, as far as like restricted purposes. Because let's be real, we all want to see that fight. Everybody wants to see that fight, right? But even legally speaking, because like Jon Jones in the contract, he can't do that. Again, I'm going to fact check that to make sure.
What do you mean he can't? What do you mean he can't do it? Like he can't do it like in another. Like what do you mean he can't do it?
So is in a paid promotion, right? Like in like a fight, right? Like Jon Jones can't just go and like, oh, we can go see some tickets to go see Jon Jones fight, Francis Ngannou and in like the IFC or some shit like that. And it was just
that makes sense. I would expect it to be like that.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's kind of part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like that really is. That's kind of like part of it too. So.
You are in that contract. They decide for you. I signed my last contract in December 2017. Even at the time, I knew it wasn't a good contract, but I know I have to earn my position, become a champion, have more value. In order to negotiate a better deal for me, I need to add more value to myself. And that's what I've been doing in the past 5 years, and which is okay. I never really complained with that contract, no matter what happened. The only thing that I wanted is the right to deliver that contract, to terminate that contract as I should, and move on into the next one. I do believe that I have that right, at least. I mean, that's called freedom, to be able to terminate a contract in order to start another one. And if the new one doesn't suit your condition, you're also free not to sign without going into a bad blood, So that's how I feel about it. It's just unfortunate that we didn't come to a term, which I wish we could have, but it is what it is, But as an independent contractor, I have to look up to myself and do what's right for me. And everyone out there should do the same for themselves. Now, it's very crucial for my future. I have to take a time, decide what's my next move. And I'm gonna speak.
Bro, I really hope this motherfucker go over to boxing.
I mean, you gotta make money. You're gonna be somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And I think I like his message about like this is for any independent contractors. That means you work at Uber, Lyft, any of y'all, man. Like you hear about them Lyft drivers, they be getting like shot and they don't be getting no protection.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't have a problem with it because you're an independent contractor, but you gotta protect yourself. So
exactly, bro. I'm telling you right now, it's crazy too, man. And it's crazy and it's really fucking sad that it's even going on like this. Like I said before, I don't know if it's strictly Dana White and maybe Dana White, and I'm not trying to make excuse for him. I'm just admitting the fact that I don't know, but I don't like how he be like going out on them. You know what I'm saying? So like, if somebody's making you say this shit, it's just like his attitude. It's just so like nonchalant. Like you're like, you want to do it? Like almost like he's dumb for doing it. Like if you don't agree, the least
he reminds me of who he talks like. Because he's a promoter.
Yeah,
so he reminds me of Vince McMahon.
He does, though. He does.
You can't take everything he says seriously because part of it is to build up the brand and to create this narrative and this. Like part of UFC, just like wrestling, is you have to build storylines, right?
Yeah,
so he has to say crazy shit. Like you can't take all of it literal, but. Yeah, that's what he reminds me of. It's kind of funny. Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for the people working for him, but as for entertainment purposes, it's good shit.
Yeah. So, like, again, I don't know. But, yeah, I'm definitely a little bit irritated about the situation. I wanted to see Jones.
Yeah, it sucks because the fans are the people who lose at the end of the day.
I was finna put a mortgage check on that motherfucker, bro. Like, I'm like, Jon, and I fuck with Francis Ngannou, all right? But I'm like, there was who you think gonna win? I'm like, oh, yeah, Jon Jones. I'm like,
we're gonna find out. It's shit like this. You find out is the UFC the one really running shit, or is it the athlete?
Yeah, point
We're
taken.
gonna find out who wins, and that's
Point
going,
taken. Point taken.
Because like the NFL, man, people be like, "Oh man, they need this and they need that." Man, I don't. Aaron Rodgers out. I'm still a Packers fan. I don't give a shit.
Come on now, talk about it.
I don't care. Like I like the guys that play as an athlete, but I love Green Bay. Like you love
saying, man. You know,
Ray Lewis left. You weren't like, oh
my
I don't
God.
want to watch the Ravens anymore.
Nope. I'm trying to tell you, look, Lamar ain't play all season. Shit,
you still watching the shit, right?
You watching it though. You saying, give a fuck.
So branding is important. We're gonna find out, is UFC really it, or is it the athlete?
Yeah, it is. But yeah, this was another great reaction video. We're gonna keep them coming out, week after week after week after week after week. If you got anything you want to see us react to, anything you want to talk about, let us know in the comments.
Yep.
You got any last little things before we go?
Nah, just like I said, you guys comment, like, share, and subscribe. Just see somebody, man, nobody, just send them the content, man. We're just trying to build our page and provide this good entertainment.
I already know. So this is Common Sense, and we are out. Peace.
Peace.